Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to this edition of the John Papaloni Show. Today we have special guest Chris Stafford. Chris is with Agent Unleashed. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much, John. I really appreciate you having me.
Absolute pleasure. I'd like to start off the the podcast with a
Mhm.
description of who you are, what you do, and how you got there.
Sure. So basically, I started off as a CPA. I worked as a CPA for PricewaterhouseCoopers for 11 years. Decided I hated my life. I hated being a CPA, and decided that my passion was real estate. So I started in selling real estate in San Francisco, like in 1937. Uh, no, it's been a while. It's like 30 plus years I've been selling real estate in San Francisco as primarily as a listing agent. And then about 10 years ago, I decided that I sort of wanted to give back, and I decided to help other real estate agents become top listing agents. So I became a coach for specifically listing agents across the country. And so I love doing that. My two passions work wise is really helping listing agents become the best agents they can be. And I still sell real estate in San Francisco. One of the reasons I just love it, and number two is my coaching clients love the fact that I'm still in the trenches and I'm still selling real estate. So yeah, that's about it.
Well, that's interesting because a lot of times people get into coaching, and once they become into coaching, what ends up happening is that they kind of give up their license or give up selling. And you have
Yeah.
these
Mhm.
coaches that haven't sold in 20 years giving advice how to sell 20 years later. And you know
Exactly.
what? Some people, let's be honest, some people update enough and they actually learn enough that it's still accurate. They've made adjustments. Other people make a vain attempt of adjustments, but they're not accurate. And
Hmm.
sometimes for the agent who's looking to hire a coach, it's hard to tell who's who. So
Hmm.
there's a
Yeah,
company,
exactly.
yeah, there's companies out there. I won't mention names that are brokerages that they get people on, and that they don't focus on selling real estate. Like it initially, they get people going over there because the it's almost like a pyramid scheme. And I mean, and I
Hmm.
don't want to say pyramid scheme because it sounds not like it's not legit, but these companies are legit. It's just what I mean is that you get agents that originally transformed because they couldn't sell real
Hmm.
estate. So they made money by profit sharing and having downlines. And so they couldn't
Exactly.
sell real estate. So they get there. Now they're coaching and getting people on their downline. Now, what kind of,
Hmm.
who wants to learn from somebody who's never sold a house? Right. Like, let's be honest. Right. So,
Exactly.
now again,
Exactly.
eventually everything comes out in the wash and these people get found out, right? So
Hmm.
but the point is there's a lot of gurus that aren't really gurus or know what they're doing. So it's amazing how that happens. But where I'm going with this is, and where the question is, that why is coaching so important to you? I mean, because you're still in the trenches, you still have the experiences, and obviously you've updated yourself as time goes by because you would have to. You couldn't sell without updating yourself. So why was
Hmm.
the coaching so important versus continuing to just sell and just growing a team or growing your team bigger?
It's a really good question. So, basically, I could have stopped being a listing agent in San Francisco. I don't really need to be an agent anymore. But I just, again, like I said earlier, it's just something that I just love doing so much. But, I'm getting up there. I'm in my 60s right now. I've been doing this for over 30 years. And one of the things that I realized with the help of a lot of coaches myself, including my spiritual coach, is that one of the things that really gives me the greatest joy is to help other people. And that's really what it's about. You know, when you get older, you sort of think to yourself, okay, what's the meaning of life? What's the point of life? What's going to make me happy? Which I think is BS, the whole happiness thing. But what gives me the greatest sense of joy that I found out early on is helping other people. John, what you're doing, and you're educating so many people with this podcast, and I'm sure that you probably have the same feeling. But for me, when I jump on a podcast like this, or I jump on a coaching call, or even when I get on a sales call with somebody who's interested in my coaching program, just like when I'm jumping on a phone call with sellers in San Francisco, the energy that I get from these people is just mind-boggling to me, and I can live off of this for days, honestly. And also, too, when I see other people that are getting it, when they really, how can I see it? The light bulb goes off, and I say that you should do this, you should do that, uh, and they get it, and they do it, and they have the success. again, I can live off of that for days. It just puts me in such a state of joy that that is the reason that I went into real estate. I went into real estate to become a great listing agent, and I'm in real estate also to help other real estate agents become top listing agents, because for me personally, it's just the greatest feeling. So I hope I answer your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, it's funny because you're focused on listings, which is the same old
Yeah.
adage that, thing that all brokerages used to promote: get the listings because that's where the money's at. Now, most
Mhm.
agents, when they get into the business, I don't know whether it's a lack of experience or just they're scared or whatever it is. They want to focus on buyers because, feel it's
Mhm.
easier because you can show people. Everybody wants to buy, but
Mhm.
you kept on with the listings here. I looked up your page and everything and all that, and it's like how to 10x your listings without doing the prospecting you hate. So I found that
Mhm.
fascinating because,
Mhm.
again, focus is on listing. And how do you get a listing without prospecting? Like, what's your formula?
Well, the key is that I don't have a formula. How's that, John?
Love it.
The key is really for me is that a couple of things. I think obviously listings are key. It's super important to be a listing agent with the new stuff that's coming down from the National Association of Real Estate and all the settlements and all that kind of stuff. I see that as a huge opportunity. And we can talk more about that if you want, but I see that as a huge opportunity to be listing agents. And I think that buyers, you mentioned brand new agents, when agents first come into the business, it's getting buyers is easy. I mean, you just have to park your butt at an open house and, hopefully qualified buyers, sometimes not, come into your open house and you can scoop clients that way. And so they sort of fall into your lap. So getting buyers is sort of an easier thing. But listings, as you know, because of the NRA ruling, because I think that personally, as you know, you can leverage your time more, you can do more business, make more money. And what's key with my coaching program is I'm always figuring out how to have fun doing this and take time off. Other thing with me is just taking time off. So I think being a listing agent is super key. The problem is that most of the people don't know how to be a listing agent. They don't know what to do, and they throw all kinds of money at the problem or the issue. I had one guy that I was coaching that was spending over $5,000 a month on Zillow leads. And I said to him, I said, "Are you getting any decent leads?" And he goes, "No." Again, I'm getting a bunch of buyer leads and some really unqualified seller leads. So, I'm helping him do that. But basically, the bottom line is there's a lot of different ways to get listings. I think I made a list of 22 different ways to get listings now. And you have to know you have to know what to do to get the listings. And I think the biggest problem is that brand new agents don't know. So they don't know what they don't know, and they just need somebody to help guide them in that effort.
Yeah, and that's the interesting part here because a lot of times you're right. Like buyers, I personally found in the beginning, I found they were both difficult. Um,
Hmm.
and that becomes a lack of experience because look, let's be honest. You're working, want to work with a buyer, you do an open house. What do most people do? This is the kitchen, this is the living room, there's the bedrooms, and as if the people coming into the house are idiots and don't know what a kitchen looks like. And and like that's the
Exactly.
typical thing. And it's not because a person, just wants to put in that little effort. It's just
Hmm.
that they're nervous, they're scared, they've never done it before. Like when I first got in, I got a buyer showing within 3 days of getting licensed. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the issue is like, can you show me the property today around 5 p.m.? Yes, I can. I hung up with the person and going, no, I can't. I don't know how to book this. So I immediately called a friend and said, hey, how do I book a showing? Right. So the point I'm getting at with, you would figure with all the training and everything that came in, you would know what you're doing. But reality is it's easy when you're reading it off books or you're in a course and you're interacting. A lot harder when you actually have to pick up the phone and do something, right? Like,
Well, it's funny that you say that, because when I went into real estate, somebody convinced me, my mentor convinced me, get a real estate coach. So I paid a real estate coach $1,000 a month right off the bat. And 30 years ago, $1,000 a month, that was some good change. It's still good change now. And basically, I just listened to what he said. I was green. I didn't know. He says, make hundreds of cold calls a day. And that's what I did. I didn't know any better. So I just started cold calling every single day from day one. And it worked. I hated it, but it worked. And I started getting listings, and that was how I started. But
Yeah, it's interesting because now I remember the first day at the brokerage, or first training day at the brokerage. They were talking about cold calls, and my response was, if I have to pick the phone and start doing cold calls, I quit. It's not the business for me. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like I will
exactly.
never do that, and I've never done it.
Yeah.
I've even though I'm not a millennial, I'm like far from a millennial. Well, I'm not that far. I'm pretty
hmm
close, but I'm not a millennial. Where the whole
Oh, John, you look
thing
like
with,
you're 25 years old.
well, thanks, but you know how they stare at the phone, and you know, what I mean, look, ooh, look at the phone, it's ringing, hee hee, it
Yeah.
makes noise, it's pretty lights, and they don't answer, right? You have to text
Right,
them.
right,
But what I'm saying is
right.
that I'm closer to the millennial in terms of reaction than I am to the baby boomer who will answer the phone, right? And it's
hmm
not always. I mean, if I don't know who it is, I don't want to answer the phone. So if I don't even want to answer the phone, what are the likelihood I'm going to make the phone call, right? So
Right,
now I
right,
will if I
exactly.
like, again, and that's why it's called qualified people. When you have a qualified person, I'm different, and that's why I said, where I'm different there is that if I know who's calling and I know it's
hmm
business, I will answer. If we have a qualified buyer or qualified seller, I will make that call. I just don't want to call
hmm
strangers to say, hey, have you ever thought about selling your house?
Right,
Geez, how
right.
did you know? I was sitting here waiting for you to call, or knock on my door, right? Because the other thing is,
Uh-huh.
cold call and door knock. That was the big
Right,
key thing
right.
here, and I think that I'm not saying it doesn't work anymore. Let's be clear. I'm not saying it doesn't
hmm
work, but I don't think that's the most effective use of your time today.
hmm Yeah, I would agree. I would totally agree. And I think what's the most, and here's the thing is, I'm going off on a tangent here. I think the most effective use of your time today are the marketing strategies to get listings that you're going to do, are the ones that you like, are the things that you're going to do consistently. Because my whole coaching program is all about really understanding that particular person, understanding what their strengths are, what their weaknesses, what are they willing to do. And everybody's different. Everybody's willing to do something different. So I don't have a one size fits all. You got to do A B C D E. No, I want to understand who the person is because I've got a guy down in Long Beach who's killing it with door knocking. I mean, he's making a significant amount of change with door knocking, and he does it Monday through Friday, and he's killing it. Can't get him to call a sphere of influence, but he's killing it with
Mhm.
door. Everybody hates door knocking. And am I going to tell this guy not to door knock? No, absolutely not. So I think it's really important. It's really incumbent on us as leaders, if you want to say that, is to really understand what people are really good at, what they're going to do, and what they're going to do consistently. Because as you know, the money's in the consistency.
Yeah, absolutely. Doing something once or twice and giving up is just as effective as not doing it at all.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly,
So
exactly.
it's crazy how people think
Yeah,
they can do. Oh, I tried it, it doesn't work. Well, what did you do? Oh,
yeah.
I did a video. Okay. How many? One. All right. Where'd you post it? YouTube. I only
Yeah,
got 10 views, so it doesn't work. Well, how many other
right.
videos did you do? None.
Mhm.
How did you promote the
Yeah.
video? No.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Right? Like it's just that sense of expectation just because you did something once, it's gonna, like it's gonna work somehow. It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy that man
And you
that
and if you Yeah, I totally agree with you. And the other thing, not to interrupt you, but the other thing is you combine that with this sort of shiny object syndrome, which I'm convinced that every real estate agent has ADD like me. And everybody's just so distracted by all these new things that, they always try some new thing to try to get listings and it doesn't work after, like you say, one or two times. And then they shit can it.
yeah.
And it's not the way to do it.
Yeah, and I'm going to give a piece of advice to everybody. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a little story here, and then once I tell you the story, and then I'll tell you why I'm getting to the story, where I'm going with it, is that when I first started it, I remember, like I said, this is day one in the training. We're sitting in the course, and like day one in the brokerage. I mean, not the actual license course. I already did that. Day one in the brokerage, we're sitting there, and they're talking about some of the things they're going to, and they're like, why is everybody here? Let's be honest. Why does everybody want to be a real estate agent? Money, money. You know what I mean? That's what they do, right? So it's like, and it goes, we know there's money in this because look at the parking lot. Look at it. Look at all the cars out there. Everybody, what do you see? Mercedes, BMWs, other cars, like, you know what I mean? You know the money's there because look at the cars that are coming in. And my response was really, yeah, but anybody can rent a car, right? So, and where I'm going with
Mhm.
this is that it was almost like you were being sold to. Like you already joined the
Mhm.
brokerage. What are you selling me for? Right. And
Mhm.
I'm getting at, like, where I'm going with this is that most people getting into that came from a different career. Because let's be honest, real estate is not your first career. It usually almost never is. It's always a second career, third career, whatever, right? So it's never the first career. And there's that perception that you have to have that fancy car because like fake it till you make it. So get the fancy car because you can get a lease. You can get a BMW, $499 down, $499 a month, right? Anybody can afford that. But think about it. You're going for $499 a month so you can work your bartending job while you're trying to build your real estate business. And now most of your money, instead of investing in your business, is going to pay that car lease. It's ridiculous, right? Like the first thing you should do when you get into the real estate business is not buy a car. Do not lease a car. You you do not need to lease a car for a write-off. You have no income until you make a certain amount of income where your accountant says, "Why aren't you doing it?" Don't do it. Use what you have. If you're going to spend $499 a month, invest in your business, invest in yourself, invest in building your brand and getting known, invest in getting a mentor or a coach. Use that money for that. It's a lot wiser than a damn car. Anybody can fake it.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I love what you're saying right now, John, because it's so key and it's so important, because I think that a lot of times real estate agents go into the business with their wrong priorities, and they don't understand, really that's important. Put the money back into your business. And it sort of leads into a conversation I think about that I'm talking all the time about, is one of just authenticity and transparency and being real with your clients and being real with yourself and what's important, and having a super strong vision and a super strong mission statement for your business. Why are you doing this? What's important about doing this? If you're going into real estate and it's just about money, chances are you're not going to be a success. There has to be another reason why you're doing it. Getting a BMW because you can't afford it while you're working a bartender job, that would be somebody that totally has their priorities all screwed up. And yet, you're right. We see it all the time with brand new real estate agents. So absolutely, totally agree with you.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with fancy stuff, and if you like it, but earn the money first and then spend it. Don't spend it before you earn it.
Yeah, I just got off a call last week with a guy who's sort of a newer agent. He's trying to find his way. He's been selling for like the last year. He sells maybe one listing a month, and we are working on getting him to like triple that. But one listing a month, and he wants to hire an assistant. And I said, you don't need an assistant right now. You're spending money that you don't need to be spending right now, because if one listing a month, you can do it yourself. Build your cash reserves so that you can hire that assistant when you're selling 5, 6, 7 listings a month and you really need the help. So absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I believe that
priorities, man.
Exactly. But I believe the first thing a person should hire is an assistant. But like you said, not when you're making a basic income.
Right.
You hire it once you get to the point that you're missing out on deals because you're too busy doing admin work instead of going after and serving customers.
Totally agree. Leverage your time and delegate and defer. That's what I'm all about.
Exactly. So now, again, going back to the whole, you're into the listings, which is great. Now, in terms of your process, what does your process look like? Like, I know you got to customize it. Everyone's different, and it's based on what works for them, because not everything works for everybody. But there's got to be certain formulas or certain things that are sort of standard. Like I know, like for example, you said earlier, consistency. Obviously, that's key. What other key components are there that people should need to be aware of?
So good question, John. I think, don't get me wrong. If I say that I'm trying to help people sort of create their dream business all around the marketing strategies that they really want to do and that they're good at doing, and they're going to do it consistently. But it doesn't mean that you don't have a routine, that you don't have a schedule that you stick to. So I think my process really for me personally is I'm really trying to get people to really use block time to address certain issues, address certain things. I just did a video this morning for social media about the importance of really starting off your day in the correct order. So I really want agents to really address their health and their mindset. No surprise to everybody listening, but I think that if you have a really good mindset and you have, that you're working out so that you're really dealing with your mindset and your body, you've got the mental energy and capacity, you've got the physical energy and capacity to deal with all the BS that, is going to be thrown at your day today. And so my process is to really address that first, and then find at least 3 different kinds of marketing strategies that you're using for listings to find listings to fill up your listing pipeline. So that's definitely one. And then make sure that you consistently work those, prospect those every single morning. And again, whatever works for you with the kids and the husband, the wife, whatever, but have a schedule that you stick to. That's super important for me. So just, I think starting off your day on the right foot is really key for me. I'm probably 80% of my time I'm on schedule, on point in the mornings. My afternoons go to hell in a handbasket, but my mornings have to start off right. And if I don't, then the rest of the day is, BS. And the last thing I'll say too is it's really important that I really try to drill into real estate agents that the fact is you really need to judge the success of your day based on your actions and not your results. So just because you spend, like I spend 2 hours every single morning, I'm calling my SOI, I'm doing all my other marketing strategies. If I don't book a new appointment or I don't get a listing, to me, but I did it and I was on point and I did it for the full 2 hours, then I'm golden. I feel great because I know that I put that energy out there. I know that it's going to come back to me. And so something's going to happen. So I think some people just get too caught up in, okay, it's got to be the results. It's got to be the results. And I've got a great strategy to help people start new marketing techniques and start this whole process in a real easy way that sort of circumvents the fear in the back of your brain. But that's, long-winded answer to your question. I hope that answers it.
Yeah. So in other words, that the starting process is to get your mindset in check. Once you got your mindset in check, you got to create a schedule. Now, how important is it? Like, because everyone has different theories. Some people say, hey, if you want us to be successful people wake up at 5 a.m. Successful people start off their day at 6 a.m. And there's all different theories. And then some people say, I don't need to be up at 5 to be successful. And everything's and my industry is different. My clientele is different. Everyone has excuses. Everyone has different things. But question is, does an agent really have to be up at 5 or 6 in the morning to be successful? Where should the day start and why is it important?
Absolutely not. The answer to your question is no. They don't have to get up at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. I don't care if they get up at 9 o'clock. The most important thing, and this is coming from somebody like me, who I get up at 0 dark 30 every single day. I'm usually meditating, doing yoga like at 5 a.m. I'm usually in the pool or working out by 6 a.m. So I'm an early person. I always have been. But again, going back to really trying to custom design the life and the business for each person, it's important to figure out what's going to work for you. And this is something that's really important for me. Figure out what's going to work for you so that you do it consistently every single day. If you can put the work in and you can design a schedule that works for you, hell, I don't care if you get up at midnight. If you're doing the prospecting that you need to do, if you're working with your clients the way you should be doing, and you're doing the business, I have a lot of clients that are really night people. It blows my mind because I fall off my chair at 8 o'clock at night. But I have people that work till midnight. I was just talking to an agent the other day, and he's telling me that he doesn't really start working till like 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and he works till like 1 o'clock in the morning. Blows my mind. But hey, if it works for you and you're getting your work done and you're prospecting and filling your listing pipeline, go for it. I'll work with anybody.
Right. Now, the other myth that I don't know if it's a myth, it might be true, depending, is that people say real estate is not a 9 to 5. It's a 24-hour business. What is your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that are total BS when I hear that. Sure, I make no mistake about it. Being a top listing agent is a lot of work. It's really important that you work smartly, and it's really important that you put the time in. And there's going to be difficult situations. You're going to have difficult days, and so you're going to put the hours in, and you're going to do the work. But I think that the whole point, and this is me coming, so I've been doing this for 30 years. What I'm trying to get people to do is take time off. I want people to regenerate, take at least 1 day off a week, take a weekend off each quarter, maybe take a long vacation, twice a year or whatever. It's really important to just sort of get away from it. And there are a lot of ways you can do that, but you need to recharge your batteries. And so those agents, those listing agents in particular that say that they're available 24/7, it's like, dude, get a life. You have to get, it's just ridiculous to say I'm going to be available 24/7. Basically by 8 p.m. at night, I'm turning my phone off and I don't put it back on until 8 o'clock the next morning. So, Yeah, no, I totally disagree with that. Because what's the fun in that? My whole thing is, excuse my language, but I have a spiritual mentor, and she told me this. I'll never forget it. She said, Chris, this is an 85-year-old woman who lives in Nevada. And I talk to her probably twice a month. And she says, Chris, we're making all this shit up anyway. Why don't we make up fun stuff? And I can't agree with that more. It's like, you have the ability to design your life. You have the ability to design your business any way you want. If you're getting the listings and you're making money and you're having fun and enjoying doing it, and you can take time off and spend time with family and friends, what's not to love about that? And you can do this with your clients. Your clients don't care. You can set the tone. The easiest way to do this is the first time you meet with somebody, you set the tone with them right up front. You say, hey, listen, I'll be available whenever you want, but on, I don't know, pick a day. Saturdays, I'm not available. That's my day off with my family. And you know what your new client's going to say? They're going to say, oh, okay, sounds good. There's not going to be any pushback. I've never had anybody push back on you wanting to spend time with your family. So yeah, that's where I come from. As long as you're doing it, make it fun, get the work done, take as much time off as you can.
Yeah, I'm going to give people another clue. They don't actually care if you show them the house or not. They just want somebody to open the door. There's this big myth out there, and I used to thought, because we make ourselves feel like, oh, they're calling because of me. So they want me to be there. Now they saw some sort of maybe they called you because they know you, they trust you, they like you because that's who you deal with. But if you can't make it one day, just say we're going to use a Saturday. You have some Saturday you can't make it, and they want to see a house on Saturday. You get somebody in your office to show them the house on the Saturday, and whether you compensate them somewhere, whatever, they don't give a damn. They're calling you because you're the go-to, and that's the whole idea of marketing yourselves and building yourself, so they get to know, like, and trust you. And because you're the trusted source, if you're saying, hey, I can't make it on Saturdays, which you've cleared up in advance, and say, I can't make it Saturday, but if you want to see a home, Bob Smith at the office, I work with him. He's a great guy. He'll be able to show you the homes on the Saturday. But once you see the homes, if you like it, we can still proceed with it. I'll go again and look at it with you so we can see any discrepancies. We're going to have a home inspection in there. So there's plenty of time to make sure that we got the right thing for you. And I'd be glad to help you that way. And, and I work with Bob, so it's very trusted. So Bob can show you the homes on Saturday. I'll show you every other day. And this way you get your service. You get serviced either way, and you're taken care of. And at that point in time, we can proceed. They're not going to care. They don't give a damn who opens the door.
Exactly. I totally agree. 100%.
Yeah, and I learned that one the hard way, because people told me, even the brokers told me, they said, hey, you know what? How do teams work? People build a brand, build a reputation. They call based on that. Then how come the team leader's not going around showing houses? Because they don't care. And I thought, yeah, that's easy to say. And I kept thinking, and I learned this the hard way. I was showing I had 2 customers I was dealing with at the time. Actually, to be honest, 5, but 2 of them that ended up bumping into each other. So they would always book at the same time, at the same days, and I'd have to rotate them. And it never occurred to me to get somebody else to help them. So I remember that I went to show one house. Somebody says, oh, we want to see a house. We work at 1. Can we go at 10? I'm booked. I mean, how about after work? And I thought it was no big deal in my head. I'm thinking I still accommodated them. I went after work. But I found out later they were pissed off about that. And I thought, why? And the comment the person made was, couldn't you have just got someone in your office to show us? I go, I don't care who opens the door. I mean, I called you, so when you're available, that's great. But just get someone in your office to open the door. Who cares who opens the door?
Right.
And it just blew me away. I thought they were expecting me to be there. And I thought it's hard to juggle this. You know what I mean? And I realized that was the day that, everything the office said, or that they try to teach us, where they, it was true. They don't care. Right. So
exactly. And it's all about setting the tone up front. If you set the tone up front with your clients, they really are not going to care. And one of the other things I always talk about too is, you can always a lot of this has to do with your own personal, experience and maybe your own confidence level, but you have to be confident enough to assume the doctor frame. When you assume the doctor frame in terms of your business, when you go to your doctor and the doctor says, no, I'm not available at the 9 a.m., but I could see you at 5 p.m., they're going to, oh, okay. So, it's just exactly what you're saying, John. I totally agree with you that you just have to have the confidence to, set your boundaries, number 1. And number 2, if it's not going to work, find somebody else to help you. I love that.
Yeah, exactly. Now, here's the other biggest myth, and this is what scares people on in terms of listings. Now,
Okay.
the whole commission rate thing. And what I mean by
Mhm.
that is that not necessarily how much you charge, it doesn't really matter because that's always negotiable. But
Mhm.
the reason people gravitate to buyers is because you read off the MLS what the commission, well, up till today, let's be clear.
Mhm.
You go on the MLS, you read what the commission rate is, and you know what you're getting paid. There's no negotiating. You just go there and show the house, and you try to find the attributes that fit your customer
Mhm.
best. So
Mhm.
there's no, which brings up the other point that if you can't negotiate your commission, how good are you at going to be to negotiate for your clients? But
Right. Right.
aside from that, so that's a lot of reason why people gravitated to buyers because that's all set and you don't have to worry
Mhm.
about that. Now,
Right. Right.
when you come to listings, and you go through your presentation and then go, that's great. How much is your commission?
Mhm.
A lot of people, that's when they choke up and they many times fail. And believe it or not, their confidence sometimes costs them the uh, the listing because they're scared to list to ask for what they want. So they'll
Mhm.
either
Mhm.
underbid, undersell, right, and say, "Oh, well, I can
Right.
do it for 3% instead of 5 or
Mhm.
2% or whatever it is." And again, poor negotiation tactics. You can't negotiate for yourself. How are you going to negotiate for your client? So, but
Mhm.
where I'm going with this is that people do not know how to tackle it, where an experienced agent
Mhm.
will know. So, what would your perspective be in terms of commission? How would somebody, because it's all about value. So, how does somebody present
Mhm.
enough value where they can ask for the commission that they feel they're worth?
Well, that's a really good question. For starters, number one, I would say practice, practice, practice. You should have 3 or 4 different scripts that you're using. And one of my very first go-tos is when I'm meeting with the seller and they say, "Oh, your standard commission is 5%." My average sales price is a little north of $2 million in San Francisco, and on that kind of property, I will do it for 5%. But I just say 5%. And they say, can you negotiate? Can you go any lower? And I just say, no. Do you have any other questions? And at 50% of the time, if you just do that with a big smile on your face and you just say, okay, it's matter of fact, 50% of the time they're just gonna move on. You can change the subject and move on, because I think American buyers are used to knee jerk asking for a discount, asking for money off, and they just want to be able to say, "Okay, I asked the question." But there are so many other scripts that you can use that if you're practiced and you're confident. And there's the thing. I truly believe if you practice your scripts and you're saying with a big smile on your face and you're 100% confident, and part and parcel of that is really understanding your value and understanding your worth. So you really need to be super confident about what value that you offer. So you really need to do some soul searching and write down on a piece of paper all the different value options that you offer them, and how and why you're the best person to sell that. And so I think that there's a lot of different things that you can do to strengthen your confidence in that area, but a lot of it has to do, with being practiced and knowing your worth. It's like, for instance, yesterday I had a call with actually a coaching client who, she was actually a lovely woman. I know I could have helped her, and she was a real go-getter. And she said, I told her how much I charge for coaching, and she said, "Well, I'll tell you what." She said, "I'll tell you, you get me the first listing, and then I'll pay you, X number of dollars per month over a course of 6 months." And I said, "I'm sorry, I'm not going to start working with you unless you have some skin in the game. You have to at least give me something to start, because if you don't do the work, you're going to say, 'Oh, I didn't have a listing, and I've just wasted all that much time.'" It's the same thing with selling real estate. You have to understand what your worth is, and you have to be willing to say no, and you have to be willing to walk away. Now, it's not to say that I would say if somebody wants a 0.5% commission reduction, or maybe a 1% commission reduction, I probably consider it. But if somebody wants, is at 6% and they want you to do it for 3%, screw that noise. I wouldn't. It's not worth my time and energy to take that kind of a listing, because I love what you say. If you can't negotiate your own commissions, how can I blah blah blah? But the other thing too is if you can't do that, two things. One, you're going to hate yourself and you're going to resent the hell out of everything that's going on in that transaction. And number two, chances are that seller is going to be a royal pain in the ass. And so you got to be willing to walk away, man.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? But I think the key thing that you kind of implied is that in order to be able to stand firm on your commission, you have to
Mhm.
know what value you provide.
Yeah,
Because if you're just going out there and
totally.
say, I'm 5%, what do? I stick a sign in your lot. Well, that's the exact thing they
Hmm.
don't want to pay for. So,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? And that's what gets us that reputation that's equal to mechanics. And that's the wrong list of
And
not.
no, and so know your worth, and another part of that too is not only know your worth, but try to distinguish yourself on how you're different from other listing agents. There's a lot of different things that you can say. For instance, like one of the things that I like to say is, there's a difference between active marketing and passive marketing. And most real estate agents, they put a sign out front and they put an ad on the internet and they wait for buyers to come themselves. But me and my team, we actually go out and beat the bushes looking for buyers. We call people every single day looking for buyers for your particular home, i.e., do circle prospecting. And a lot of real estate agents don't do that. And so, if there's a way that you can distinguish yourself, whether it has to do with anything, I don't know, your market, your experience, your ethnicity, anything, your marketing strategy, go for it, do it, but figure out some way that you're a little different.
Yeah, exactly. So, what value do you provide? Like, I'll give a little tip for everybody that's watching. Something that I used to do, and probably should continue doing, but regardless, is that I used to have when I had a listing, I'd have an open house. And it wasn't the open house itself that I cared about, because let's be honest, majority of people that come to open houses aren't really looking for the house, right? Like they're
Mm-hmm.
just looking at, it's usually comparison. I would say at least 50% of the people there are just nosy neighbors to see how it compares to their house.
Mm-hmm.
The other
Sure.
50% are opportunities, but out of that 50% that are opportunities, 50% of that have agents that are too lazy to bring their customers. So the customers go out to the open houses themselves. And then you have
Mm-hmm.
25% that are actual buyers. So, and
Mm-hmm.
that's just been my observation. Now, where I'm going with this is that you're going, okay, why do the open house then? Here's why. Because you're not doing it necessarily for the open house. I mean, you're trying to get interest on the property and you're trying to give,
Mm-hmm.
remember, 25% are going without their agents, but that's still 25% of the people looking at the house to buy. And that
Mm-hmm.
25% that don't have an agent, that's sold. 50% are still, home buyers. And what I do over and above that is I use that open house as a marketing opportunity, and I go around the
Mm-hmm.
neighborhood. I used to print up flyers, and I used to print up like
Mm-hmm.
5,000 of them. Not only would I go door knocking house to house to house and talk to
I
people and
love
tell
it.
them, hey, I have this open house. A prime example, I'll just say I'll use a condo. We're listing a condo, and I'll go to an area that was older people who they're going to be looking to maybe downsize or not be able to take care of their single family home anymore because they're like 70 or something like that, and that'd be the average age because you're going to know their demographics. So I'd go into that
Mm-hmm.
area and I would say, knock on the doors, introduce myself, tell them who I was, and then say, hey, you know what, I'm hosting an open house at a condo down the street from here that would be an
Mm-hmm.
ideal opportunity if
I
you're
love it.
tired of stairs and you don't want to continue with the maintenance of the yard. I go, this would be a great opportunity. If you're interested in a condo or even want to just come and look at it just to see what it's like, here's the my flyer. It has all the information about the unit, and we're there between Saturdays between 1 and 4. Feel free to come by, even if it's just to take a look so you can see what your options are. And a lot of times that generated things. Then what happens is I
Mm-hmm.
did the neighborhood. When I was done the neighborhood, I would have a set of flyers that I would go to the parking lots in a local restaurant that was around the condo, like because the basement had, like, not the basement, the ground floor usually have restaurants at the bottom and stuff like that. So I would grab the whole parking
Mm-hmm.
lot and I would flyer that parking lot the night before, just so
Mm-hmm.
everybody who went to the restaurant will get to see that the unit in the building is for
That's
sale.
brilliant.
And then,
Mm-hmm.
do you know how many times I got a phone call saying, hey, I'm at the open house, or I'm trying to get to the open house. I'm downstairs, but I can't figure out where the entrance is. My phone would ring
Mm-hmm.
several times at the open house from people that saw those flyers or from the houses that I knocked on.
That's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. I used to do something similar, but I would approach the house and I would say, do you know anybody that might be interested in a property like this? And so it sort of takes the attention off of them. But yeah, I think that's brilliant what you're doing. That's great.
Yeah, so it creates, yeah, exactly. It creates it creates awareness, and even
Mm-hmm.
going to talk about the commission. The reason it becomes if you're getting a lot of commission questions or pushback, it usually means you don't have
Mm-hmm.
a strong enough brand.
Yes.
Once, and
Yeah.
that's the purpose of promoting yourself. You want to get to the point that you can say this without saying it because it's cocky,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, you may know me, but I don't know you. And when you can
Mhm.
say that accurately without saying it
Mhm.
because you don't want to offend people, then you know you built a brand because people know you. You go in the community and they
Yes,
know you. Because they know you and they see you everywhere, they begin to know you, like you, and trust you, and that's why they want to deal with you. And the more they know, like, and
exactly.
trust you, the less they fret about the commission.
Absolutely. And that is why, my friend, that is why it is super important that, and one of the things I talk about ad nauseum, building rapport is super key. So one of the things that I do is you have to spend all of your time and energy before your listing appointment and during the listing appointment, really building rapport, really connecting with them. There's so many things that you can do in advance of appointment to get the sellers all the technical information they need about pricing and marketing and all that kind of stuff. And if you spend most of your time really listening to what the sellers are saying and really building rapport and really, understanding what their anxieties are and their insecurities and what their goals are and their motivations, and really parrot that back to them, and so that they feel, what Milo Angelou said, it's not what you say or it's not what you do, it's how you make somebody feel that they're going to remember. And if you really make a seller feel like you're special, you really listen to me, that type of thing, that's how you get listings. And I couldn't agree more with you.
Absolutely. Now, the other thing is that when you're doing a listing presentation, my tip, I'm
Mhm.
going to give away a little nugget, is do not show up to the listing with a presentation. In fact, by the
Mhm.
time you showed up, they've already expected to talk to you. They want you to answer their questions. They kind of don't really care
Mhm.
what you're presenting. So
I
how do you
love
get
it.
around this? You have prepared the listing presentation in advance. That's why you don't take
Mhm.
same day appointments. You take next day
Mhm.
appointments. You get prepared by creating that presentation, and you make sure you courier it to them so they get it in the morning. So they had all day to go through it and look at it. They're going to come up with a list of questions from what you sent them. And then sometimes
Mhm.
they won't even read it, but the fact that you sent to them
Mhm.
will keep you top of mind. So by the time you showed
Mhm.
up, you might be the third or fourth agent they've interviewed, but they remember you
Love
had
it.
a presentation in advance. They remember that. Whether they read it or not, you answered their questions. They're going to feel that you're the most prepared. And when you're the most prepared, that's going to give them confidence. And that's most likely how you're going to land that deal.
It's so funny that you say it. I do exactly the same thing, John, and I think it's the greatest thing, because then what you can do is when you're meeting them, you can spend, like I said, all that time really answering their questions and building the rapport. And you're not just sitting there going through talking about pricing or talking about marketing if they're not really interested in that. So I love that. That's absolutely a brilliant approach.
Yeah, every listing I've lost was the listing I showed up where I printed a few MLS listings off the internet, printed it on my black and white
Yeah.
printer, and I showed up with a pieces of paper and a pen, and I just showed up and say, "Look, these are the comparables." And I did that on the fly. I did the same day appointment, didn't bother with the presentation. I lost every one of
Mhm.
those.
Yeah, yeah. Because the truth is, in the old days, sellers really didn't have access to the internet, and they needed that kind of information. Nowadays, sellers basically know what their property should list for and probably what they should sell for. Sure, you could talk about pricing strategies and all that, but you don't really have to go into that because they're pretty knowledgeable nowadays.
Yeah, and look, some of them are unreasonable, but your
Mhm.
presentation will already give them the indication because you're going to have that information in there. When you
Right.
show up, that presentation you send to them in the morning, if they looked at it, they're going to
hmm
already be aware that they're
hmm
overestimating what their house is worth or underestimating.
Right. But
Right.
John,
So,
how many times have you met with a seller and this is, but my house is special?
oh, almost all the time. Yeah. My kitchen is green and
Uh,
my neighbor's is purple. That purple kitchen isn't going to
yeah,
sell for as much as mine. Oh, okay.
exactly, exactly,
So,
exactly.
but yeah, generally, you're within the ballpark. And let's be honest, if you're at a presentation and the seller says my house is worth 2 million and every house on the block sold for 1.4, don't even take the listing.
Yeah, touche, touche. Couldn't agree more. Walk away.
Right. Because it's reputation too. It's just as
Mhm,
important to say how many listings you closed, as in getting the listing. Because if you have a record of having 100 listings and only 30 close, we have a 30%
mhm.
close. No one's going to give you the time of day to say that I took a listing when the client was ridiculous. They're just going to
Exactly,
look at that and say the guy
exactly.
doesn't sell very much.
Right, right, exactly. I love it.
So
I love it.
awesome.
Cool.
So now, who is your ideal client? I mean, let's be honest. Just like in real estate, when you're you're focusing on listings or buyers, or you're focusing on certain
Hmm.
communities. You're really focusing on a certain niche. So what would your typical niche be for your business?
So you're talking about from my real estate business or from my coaching business?
Coaching.
Coaching. Yeah. So I appreciate that question. Thank you. My typical client that I really love to work with and that I'm really looking for are people that are, this sounds so trite, but it's people that are serious about upping their game. It is people that are resourceful, coachable, and decisive. And I have sort of a screening process that I usually don't veer from, because if I get any sense for the fact that you're not coachable, decisive, and resourceful, and you won't do the work, and I'll tell people right up front, I want them to do the work, because so there has to be a strong motivating factor of somebody who already has some degree of success, but really wants to take it to the next level. The thing that really I find the most frustrating and disheartening are clients that they pay me money to help them out, and then they don't do the work, or they don't talk to me. John, I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but I have one guy that paid me money and I can't get him on the phone. He won't talk to me. And I asked him, I texted him and I said, "What's your deal? You're not even going to let me talk to you?" And he said, "Well, I treat you as an attorney. I just want you there on retainer." And I'm like, "Whatever." So it's really important to me that I work with people that really have that desire and that drive and that motivation to really step up their game. And so that's really important. So that's what I'm
Absolutely.
looking for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Like
Mm,
this. Yeah. I had, I did some coaching myself, and I've had people out there that, when they want advice, they call, you can't get them off the
mm,
phone because it's free.
mm,
The minute there's a
mm.
charge on it, all of a sudden, even when you're trying to help them, they're not there. It's like,
Exactly.
oh, I don't want to rack up the bill. Somebody should tell them it's all inclusive. This is the price and these are the terms. You show up for
Right.
the appointments. Like, it's
Exactly.
weird. I've seen some weird things out there, right? Like it's unbelievable. But anyways, it is what it
Yeah.
is. I mean, again, it
Right.
shows the character of the person, right? Because not everybody's
Mhm.
willing to invest in themselves. And people, there's many times you can get people that'll do anything for anybody else, but when it comes to themselves, they won't help themselves.
And the other thing too, John, I'm really surprised. For some reason lately, I've been getting a lot of a number of people that are saying that they really sort of want everything sort of handed to them on a silver platter, which is I think why they're probably spending so much money on these listing lead services and stuff like that. And what I'm finding is that the people that are spending that kind of money, they're sort of doing it because they don't really necessarily know how to do it any other way. So yeah, it's interesting that I'm getting so many people that I'm talking to that just, are you just a lead service? Can you just give me leads? And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm about. I'm really about helping you create your own business and do it on your own terms, which is a lot more productive and a lot more fruitful, and it's a lot more you can make a lot more money when you're not spending tens of thousands of dollars on listing leads.
Yeah, now I'm going to give you another story here. And the thing is, I can give somebody 1,000 leads, and they can end
Hmm.
up closing zero. Right? That
Yep.
is a possibility, because having leads doesn't give you the business. Leads are just people
Right.
that were interested or had some sort of inquiry. It doesn't mean they're ready to buy.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean that they're interested in you and buying with you. It doesn't mean you've
Yep.
won their trust. It just means that they had an inquiry. And there's no
Hmm.
guarantees in that. And if you're not prepared and you don't know how to carry the conversation, in fact, you might actually convince them to not buy with you because of your conversation.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes.
and so you need skills beyond having a lead. Now,
Yes.
going with the lead company, I can't stand those. I can't
Hmm.
absolutely, like, they irk me in ways you wouldn't believe. And I'll give you, here's where the story is. When I first got my license, the first 3 months, because I'm obviously good at getting myself online, I'm obviously good at promoting. And considering I came from a marketing business that was doing 8 figures a year and I sold it, it's obvious that
Hmm.
was my forte. So going to where I'm going with this is that I had a leads company, not a marketing, a leads company call me and saying, "Great news, we have an open slot in your area." And I mean, that was his opening line. Opening, who are you? An opening slot for what? Right. So, but he goes, "Oh, well, we provide leads, and this is the way it works. We get, it's a reasonable price. We got an open slot at discount for you today. It's $3,500, and we guarantee you 10 leads. That's, imagine how many
Hmm.
sales that is. We guarantee you 10 for leads for sure, qualified
Hmm.
leads." right? And so that's $350 per listing. And, and he goes, isn't that cheap? And I said to him, I go, great, no problem. I'm totally interested in what you're offering. He goes, oh yeah? He goes, great, we can get you started. We go, but I'm not going to work the way you want to work. He goes, what? He goes, I got a better deal for you. I think you're going to love it because it's going to be way more money for you. I'll tell you what, send me those 10 leads every month. And for every one I close, I'll give you $2,500. So imagine that. I'm willing to pay you $25,000 for 10 people. Well, no, you don't have to. We're trying to save you money. I go, I don't want to save money. I want to be fair for everybody. Oh, we don't work that
Did he
way.
do it? He didn't do it.
Of course not. Of course not. To be honest, it was a bogus offer because I knew he wasn't going to take it. Now, if he did take it, I'm a person, I would honor my marketing fee, right? But the reality is I knew he wasn't going to take it because it's bogus thing. Pay me for something, and whether we deliver results or not, too bad for you, right? So give me a break, right? But the point is that there's a ton of these leads things. If it was that easy and work came that simple, why wouldn't everyone do it? You wouldn't need them calling you. Everybody would be calling them because they'd have such a big reputation that there wouldn't be a person on the planet that wouldn't be using them.
Touche. I love this. I love it. Totally agree with you, man.
Fantastic. Awesome. So now I'm going to get into a little bit about your real estate business. I mean, you said you're out of San Diego, right?
San Francisco.
My bad. San Francisco. That's San Francisco is California, isn't it?
Yep.
Correct. Okay, I got my area right. Needless to say, I didn't do well in geography. So
no worries.
But we've had an interesting couple of years. And let's be honest, 2020, 2021, 2022. Let me rephrase, 2020, 2021, the first quarter of 2022 was very easy. You could drop a dime and have a house sale, right? So it was just all you had to do was show up and there was a sale, right? So now later half of 2022 and 2023, this is where the skills come out. But even the top skilled people are still going to have a struggle. And I'll give you an example. Where I'm in Ontario, typically those years that I mentioned in the beginning, we had 123,000 transactions a year, and I'm rounding, but still. Now we had 94,000 agents. So that's like 1.1 transaction per person. Now you have the top agents doing 700-800 transactions a year, the top teams. And then you have other people that are not even doing one sale. Now, if you can do one sale in those years, maybe the industry is not for you, or you're not learning properly. You're not investing in yourself at all. But what I'm saying, 2022 to 2023, that changed everything. And it's become more difficult. Top teams are still doing better, but now we have 64,000 transactions, which is almost half. Same amount of agents. Now, I'm sure some have left, some new people come on. The point I'm getting at is it's much harder. What was your strategy during this change, and how was your business affected?
Well, I'll be fully transparent that I will say that in 2023, 2024, we're doing really well. In 23, we definitely took a hit. I'd say our business was probably down 30% in 2023. But I think that what was really important in my strategy was to really double down on our skills, making sure that everybody in my team really knew what to say, acted confident, and put the time in. Doubled up on our marketing efforts is something that was really important. But it's really, those are the times. Listen, I've seen so many ups and downs in the last 30 plus years in real estate in San Francisco. And in one respect, I always think that there's an opportunity when the market goes down, because I can tell you, like in 2008, when the market tanked, it was probably one of my best years ever. Based on my skills and my marketing, what we were able to do, we made a ton of money then. Basically, like you said, 21, 22, we were just order takers. Nobody had to be really good or skillful. But when 23 hits and when the market goes down, you've got to double your efforts, but you got to double up on your skills. Associate with people that are doing better than you. I don't care whether you hire me as your coach or not, but find somebody who's doing better than you. Partner with them, mastermind with them. There's all kinds of things that you can do with people who are more skillful, doing better production with you. But there's different things that you can do, but it's really incumbent upon you to, if you're not going to double up or, really focus on your marketing efforts and really focus on your skills, then you might as well just get out of the market. You get out of the business, because that's what it's going to take really to make it in those down years.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what I did. When the market went crumbling down, I doubled down. Even in 2020, when at the beginning, when the whole world shut down, I doubled my marketing budget. So when it
There you
opened
go.
up again, which was what, 3 weeks or a month later, or whatever it is, when I opened up again, I had a flood of
Yeah.
calls, a flood of leads, a flood of business, right? And yeah, again, as an order taker, I was doing really, really well. Now, the surprising thing is 2023 was actually a great year for me. If I was able to repeat 2023 and 2024, I'd be a happy guy. So what does that tell you? Right? So now I'd rather do better. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not settling. But all I'm saying is that I'm one of the few that can say I didn't really struggle at all. And it's one of those things, but good. Where you said that you did 30% less, right? That's still above normal, because most people are doing 50% less or more.
Sure.
So I'm going to showcase the fact that when you go back to the basics and you learn your skills, upgrade your skills, improve your skills, and practice your skills, everyone's going to take a hit when the market drops in half. The difference between the person who does what you did and the person who continues to blame the market is how much of a drop you're going to take.
Absolutely. Yep. I totally agree. Totally agree. And reach out to others. Reach out to people, like I said earlier, people that are doing better than you. Question, mastermind with them. One of the things I used to always do is I'd look at the top producers in my office when I was like a newbie, is I'd take them out to lunch and I would say, hey, listen, what are you doing? How are you getting business? How is it going? What are the downfalls? What's your strength? And I would really learn from, other people. So take advantage of that. There's always people in your marketplace doing better than you. And they always like to talk about themselves. Everybody likes to talk about themselves. So
tell me
use
about
that.
So, and this is the other thing, right? If you're starting off as a new agent, consider joining a team to learn in the beginning. So many people say, oh, I don't want to split my commission. But I'm telling you, 50% of 100,000 is still a lot more than 100% of zero.
There you go.
But everybody thinks that they're going to get the 100,000 without the team. And they go, if I go to the team, am I going to get leads? Well, if you want to go to a team because you're worried about getting leads, you're going for the wrong reason. Your first year in the business, you should want to go to a team to learn, because that team has obviously got skills and systems that are working. So at the very least, if you spent a year or two with that team, you've learned to pick up their systems. You can replicate their systems and their process, and you got the learning skills. That doesn't cost you any money up front. It'll cost you money as you earn. So there's two ways to learn. Both ways will work, and they both cost money. One costs a little money, one costs a lot of money. But one costs money on the back end, the other one costs money on the front end. Now here's
there you go.
The coach will cost you money on the front end. And most likely, if you're producing, the front and the coach is actually the cheaper route. But you got to pay that up front. If you don't have the money and you're doing your bartending job and you're really worried about finances, which you can't blame a starter agent, join the team. You're going to pay it on the back end with your split, but the learning and the systems you get is invaluable, because then when you're able to separate from the team down the road, you're going to have enough skill to build up your own leads, your own team, and grow just like they grow, because they handed you that system for that price.
Exactly. And both methods cut your learning curve dramatically. So I love where you're going with that.
Absolutely. Now, in light of time, I'm going to get into a couple of last questions before I get into what I call the lightning round.
Okay.
All right. So second last question is going to be, how do you know you've had a successful day?
One of the things I mentioned earlier is when I know I've had a successful day when I've put the work in, when I've said that I'm going to do every single thing on my schedule. And that's how I know I've had a successful day. It has nothing to do with the results. It has nothing to do whether I booked an appointment. It has to do with, did I do everything for my health and my mindset? Did I do everything for my prospecting that I said I was going to do? Did I make all my meetings and appointments? If I did everything and I was on 100% the whole day, that was a successful day. I celebrate that.
Fantastic. Awesome. Now, last question before the lightning round is going to be,
Oh,
for
cool.
everybody who's watched this and they're intrigued and they want to know more, where would they find you?
Absolutely. Just go to theagentunleashed.com. That's theagentunleashed.com. You can book a call with me, has all my information. And yeah, hopefully I'd love to talk to you.
Fantastic. All right. Question number 1 from the lightning round is going to be, what is your favorite food and why?
Indian. I love Indian food. And why do I like Indian food? I love spice. I love, the hotter the better. I just love spice.
Awesome. There's definitely a lot of hot foods there. Awesome. Question number 2 is going to be favorite travel destination and why. I kind of have an inkling of what it is, but for everybody else that doesn't.
Well, I'll tell you, I live in Panama, so I love Panama. But my 2 favorite cities in the world, I'm an urban guy. I'm not into going out into the country. Rio de Janeiro. My partner lives in Brazil, so we've been to Brazil quite a few times. And Paris. If I could spend the rest of my life in Rio de Janeiro and Paris, life is great.
Love that. All right. Favorite podcast and or book?
Favorite, the interesting thing, favorite podcast, I would have to say yours, John.
Oh, of course.
One of the books that I love that I'm reading right now is Alex Hormozy. I don't know if you know Hormozy.
Yeah, Alex Hormozy.
Great YouTube guy. I love following him, and he came out with a new book just about marketing. I can't remember the name of it, but it's all you have to do. I think it's the first book he's come out with in quite a while. So love it. Love it.
Awesome. 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 Now, last but not least, if you were given unlimited amount of money, what you spend, you get to keep. Sorry, let me rephrase that. If you were given unlimited amount of money and only 48 hours to spend it, what you spend, you get to keep. What you don't spend gets taken away. What would you do?
Wow, that's a great question, John. I have 48 hours to spend the money. Oh my God, that's a brilliant question. I just looked at a $2 million condo here in Panama. I'd buy that tomorrow. And I'd probably buy a condo in Rio and one in Paris.
Fantastic. Chris, it has been phenomenal. I want to say thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely, John. Hey, listen, I really appreciate everything you're doing for all your listeners. You're doing God's work, man, and I appreciate it very much. And thanks so much for having me on.
Absolute pleasure. If you like what you saw and you want to see some more, subscribe to the link below. Thanks for tuning in to the John Papaloni Show.